Mark my words, AI is far more dangerous than nukes. It's capable of vastly more than almost anyone knows. And the rate of improvement is exponential.
All right. So, listen. The artificial intelligence is perhaps one of the greatest things that will ever happen to humanity. But it is also dangerous because it's not like a calculator or a phone that is designed to give you a specific output. The nature of artificial intelligence is that you give it inputs and you train it. So just like how you train a child, like they're trying to touch something hot, you slap them on the hand and say, "Stop it! Don't do that." That is just generally how AI works. It's a form of like error correction, and that's what we do as human beings as we grow up in the world, learning how to walk. We're making errors, and we're learning that this isn't the optimal way to do things. And then as we learn how to do things, we start crawling, then we start walking, and then we climb, and then we can do intricate things once we've mastered our ability to balance ourselves in the world on different surfaces like gravity and so forth. So AI is just a learning machine. Let's watch a clip from Elon Musk. This was 4 years ago. This might be 4 or 5 years ago. Let's see, 5 years ago. And this was at a conference. I believe there it is. It was at the Watch SXSW Live. Elon Musk. It's some kind of conference. I don't even know what that's a whole. I don't know even what this conference is, but he had some words to say about AI, and it was very interesting. And I want us to take a listen. Let me grab my headphones here. Let us.
This tends to plague smart people. They just can't. They define themselves by their intelligence, and they don't like the idea that a machine could be way smarter than them. So they discount the idea, which is fundamentally flawed. That's the wishful thinking situation. I'm really quite close to. I'm very close to the.
Okay, let's hear that one
This
again.
tends to plague smart people. They just can't. They define themselves by their intelligence, and they don't like the idea that a machine could be way smarter than them. So they discount the idea, which is fundamentally flawed. That's the wishful thinking.
See, that right there is what you call an ego problem. When you've developed your intelligence to a point where, on average, you're more intelligent than the average person about, say, a specific topic, or maybe in general, because you've done the work over the years. When an engineer is running, is creating an artificial intelligence that is growing in intelligence and smarts and so forth, you have to understand how fast and how different it is. For example, human beings, we might forget something. We might miscalculate something, neurons firing, whatever. Artificial intelligence is run on machines, ones and zeros. There's no gray area when it runs these calculations, and it runs calculations much faster than the human brain. So it can output a lot more, and it can learn faster than a human being, even though it might not seem like it's smarter than us, but it technically is. We might be able to understand complex things, but our output is very slow. Our outbound and inbound is very, very slow. But let's continue.
Situation. I'm really quite close to. I'm very close to the cutting edge in AI, and
remember, he's talking about this 5 years ago. It's probably 2018.
It scares the hell out of me. It's capable of vastly more than almost anyone knows. and the rate of improvement is exponential. I'm not normally an advocate of regulation and oversight. I mean, I think one should generally err on the side of minimizing those things. But this is a case where you have a very serious danger to the public.
Now, the danger we don't see is AI is at a point now, and he's seeing this 5 years ago, where it can be weaponized without input from a human being. You could tell it to do something, and you can watch it navigate its way on the internet, in the cyberspace, to accomplish its goals. And it can be something good, something like that, or you could tell it to shut down all nuclear power plants in the United States, and it will take on that task and do it. That is the biggest fear. People don't see it because they watch the movies and they see Exterminator and stuff, and it's way deeper than that. This is a thing that you don't see, kind of like how you don't see a virus, like a virus that makes you sick. Artificial intelligence is one of those things you won't see.
And therefore, there needs to be a public body that has insight and then oversight on to confirm that everyone is developing AI safely. This is extremely important. I think the danger of AI is much greater than the danger of nuclear warheads by a lot.
All right. Now, if you've ever watched the destruction of a nuclear warhead, so while he's doing this, it's 5 years ago, and he's warning us about AI. His concerns were legit 5 years ago. It's more dangerous than nukes. How is that even possible? It's almost like you're watching a movie Tenet.
We're trying to prevent World War III.
I'm not saying Armageddon here.
No. Something worse.
If you have an AI that you have no control over, and you believe it's dangerous, wouldn't you think the AI will feel the need to defend itself? And if the AI believes it needs to defend itself, it feels threatened. And I know I'm using the word feels. It acknowledges a threat from the human species. I mean, if you put up too much of a fight, it might set things in motion where we blow ourselves to smithereens. The nuclear warhead isn't the biggest threat because it takes a human to launch it. But if the AI believes that, listen, human beings just have to go, well, launch all of them. And that is the kind of reality that is possible as we get more connected in the future and having AIs running rampant on the internet. We need to have regulatory bodies to have, in my opinion, we might need jurisdictions and AI-free zones. For real, just like how we could go to a park or go in the middle of the woods and we're not dealing with the stuff that happens in a city or whatever it is. We might need these AI-free zones, or we might need to compartmentalize some parts of the internet to restrict certain AIs from going there, especially in situations where humans are congregating and having discussion. It is, it's a dystopian future, but I have to make this video so whoever is watching it can actually start thinking about these things. It's like you worried about the light bill and you got Terminator running through. You're worried about your light bill. Terminator 2 is happening. Ex Machina is happening in your society, right? You got Boston Dynamics robots like running down the street. Like you got police officer, you got RoboCop as a police officer on the street. Like we have to be very careful because this thing is dangerous.
And nobody would suggest that we allow anyone to just build nuclear warheads if they want. That would be insane. And mark my words, AI is far more dangerous than nukes. Far. So why do we have no regulatory oversight? This is insane. If humanity collectively decides that creating digital superintelligence is the right move, then we should do so very, very carefully. Very, very carefully. this is the most important thing that we could possibly do.
Let's get into this part of a Joe Rogan podcast with Elon Musk, and this happened a year after that last clip, and here is his concern about artificial intelligence again.
So what happened with you where you decided, or you took on a more fatalistic attitude? Like, what was there any specific thing, or was it just the inevitability of our future?
Whenever you see him think that much, you should always be concerned. Let's try this again. Joe,
Like, it's gonna it's gonna become more connected to us, right?
Yes, things are getting more and more connected. They're at this point constrained by bandwidth. Our input-output is slow, particularly output. Output got worse with thumbs. You know, we used to have input with 10 fingers, now we have thumbs. But images are they're a way of communicating at high bandwidth. You take pictures and you send pictures to people. That communicates far more information than you can communicate with your thumbs.
So what happened with you where you decided, or you took on a more fatalistic attitude? Like, what was there any specific thing, or was it just the inevitability of our future?
I try to convince people to slow down AI, to regulate AI. This was futile. I tried for years.
This seems
Nobody
like a scene
listened.
in a movie
Nobody
where
listened.
the robots are gonna fucking take over, and you're freaking me out. Nobody listened.
Nobody listened.
No one. Are people more inclined to listen today? It seems like an issue that's brought up more often over the last few years than it was maybe 5-10 years ago. It seemed like science fiction.
Maybe they will. So far they haven't. I think people don't like normally the way that regulations work. It's very slow. It's very slow indeed. So
see, he's highlighting one of the biggest things that is going on with our society. Governments cannot, and organizations that has a lot of bureaucracy, cannot keep up with the rate of change when it comes to artificial intelligence. They can't. I'm gonna give you an example. When Uber launched, right? Uber launched, and technically Uber was illegal, I believe, to use someone's personal car to do something that would be considered commercial activity. But how they framed it was like catching a ride with a friend, and then it's like you're giving them a tip, right? Uber and Lyft, they launched, and it took years for regulation to start putting guardrails to the system, because it was eating up the limo cab industry. It was eating that space up, and it was doing it at such a fast rate that people started to depend on Uber and Lyft. That service ended up becoming a crucial part of someone's productivity. And once you've gotten to that point, they have enough money and influence to try to navigate through the legal ramifications of what they're doing. Artificial intelligence is similar to that. It will do so much damage before anyone has anything to say about it. Like it will get to that point before any government regulation will able to catch up, because first you have to agree that this shit is dangerous. Everybody's gonna be like, is it dangerous? I'm not sure. Okay, I know how to make nuclear weapons. I know how to do, like, it's not hard. You have to understand how the ones that we get to interact with are the ones that with the filters. The ones without the filters, you could ask it questions like, how to make a nuclear bomb, and it will give you the recipe. It will scour the internet, all the books, Richard Feynman, all the physicists, and it will tell you all the timings and everything. It's like you're greasing the rails for the worst kind of knowledge in the hands of the worst kind of people. Anyways,
Usually it'll be some new technology. It will cause damage or death. There will be an outcry. There will be an investigation. Years will pass. There will be some sort of insight committee. There will be rulemaking. Then there will be oversight, eventually regulations. This all takes many years. This is the normal course of things. If you look at, say, automotive regulations, how long did it take for seatbelts to be implemented, to be required? You know, the auto industry fought seatbelts, I think, for more than a decade.
A decade. Now, if you have an AI bot that is as dangerous as not having a seatbelt, and is getting more and more dangerous, and over 10 years, you won't have time. You won't have time. There's no way to shut down the internet. It starts to look like the Matrix. At some point in human history, there was a war being fought between artificial intelligence and human beings. And history is lost as to exactly what happened. And in the movie, Morpheus said, they know that we scorched the sky. In an attempt to stop this thing, he just said, you know what, to hell with it. Which don't make sense, but it's a movie.
Successfully fought any regulations on seatbelts, even though the numbers were extremely obvious. If you had a seatbelt on, you would be far less likely to die or be seriously injured. It was unequivocal. And the industry fought this for years successfully. Eventually, after many people died, regulators insisted on seatbelts.
Okay, I'm gonna leave that one there. It won't become obvious that we have a problem until there is suffering. And that's the sad part of this. It will eventually cause a lot of tragedy. It might already be too late